Hey, look at this all-white, fluffy, cute Tibetan Mastiff, smiling at me like a good Labrador and a good Samoyed boy. Oh wait, that's actually a lab and a Samoyed dog in disguise pretending to be Tibetan Mastiffs. Imagine going to see Tibetan dogs and only to find, well, they're not so different than your common household breeds. Tibetan Mastiffs only to get Tibetan fluffs. China fakes doggos. Well, I guess in this case it's not so bad. Hey, did you know they forgot to feed their tigers at the Beijing Zoo? Now look at him, he's so skinny. Today we're debunking some lies or false claims about China that are fooling Western or American audiences. Have you ever seen time-traveling food production date? This bag of wheat flour is printed that it was produced on August 21st, 2025. Wow, we're barely even into August 5th by the time you see this video. China is a safe country is one of the most claimed aspect. This is a video that some CCP shells posted. Clearly it looks scripted. Nobody has a wad of cash that they perfectly count by hand, and it just happens to have a camera filming that whole moment. And so outside of this, like, who is low IQ enough to think that this is supposed to represent how safe China is? Oh yeah, look at this guy. China is not that safe. The most recent was about the bullying that caused a riot as people were fed up. They walked onto the streets, tried to ask why the local government and the police investigation were so lackluster in getting a proper reaction and a proper treatment for the victim of this bullying case. And we have random attacks that happen to foreigners yearly, and it's gotten worse in the last 2 years. This year, a Japanese woman and her kid was attacked in the subway. Now, speaking of this attack, obviously a xenophobic attack against the Japanese woman, China is a place where they have lots of hatred education. Now, the CCP claims that they don't teach hate in their classrooms. They do. It's part of their curriculum of history, but also in society as well. Yearly, they release propaganda films in order to rile up the nationalism and its feelings of anger towards the Japanese. Recently, after the premiere of the new propaganda film called Dead to Rights, which is about the Nanking massacre, people started to harass restaurants and service places in Japan. And here is videos of the harassment call to restaurants in Japan. When it comes to whether China is safe or not, these are just random poking that happened recently in a kindergarten. And this one, I won't show you the footage as it's bad, but this happened on August 3rd in Leiyang, Hunan province. At the entrance of Jinnan Primary School, a man injured multiple children with a knife, and multiple victims confirmed passing. And here is just 4 cases of poking, and that just happened recently. So this is the argument that China is safe is all relative from the eyes of a short-term stayer, like a traveler who's going to go there for 7 days. But it happens, and it's just not being reported by the regular Chinese news. And people always have this claim that somehow if you ban guns, you're going to stop the violence. Well, in China, people use different things. They use knives, cleavers, or whatever homemade guns to do the deed. And before we continue, here's an announcement. I'll be soon traveling to Malaysia to investigate Forest City. It's a Chinese ghost city real estate development, and it's been abandoned after the pandemic until recently. Now, the reason I'm going is because I want to get an underground investigation into what's exactly happened since this Forest City idea was announced, and also whether or not it's actually a ghost city. But also at the same time, this is where we want to know, outside of China, of course, because I can't go back to China, what it's like to be in the middle of a ghost town. But we also want to know what the influence of China is like in Malaysia and in Singapore. We need your support. Your donation will help to empower our independent journalism, help fund our trip, which will cover the equipment and trip costs. Now, you'll be receiving exclusive gifts from this trip by donating a certain amount. So check out the link in the description and help support us today. Another aspect they always say is that China is clean. Well, it's relative. It depends on where you look. If you're in the middle of the most touristy areas in the major cities, yeah, It's probably clean, but you just happen to stumble upon maybe one of those off streets or a little bit outside of town, yet things get really bad. It turns into a garbage dump. For example, this is a natural lava cave at Zhang, a famous tourist destination in China. It's beautiful where it should be, but here the workers took 12 hours to get rid of 2.7 tons of garbage from this lava cave. Who knows how many years it took to accumulate that much garbage? It could be weeks, it could be years. But the point here is that these things are not being shown to the Western eye. What about water? Well, sewage and waste treatment dump right into the lakes. This happens a lot in smaller cities and towns across China. You'll find this less, again, with touristy areas, you won't find this. But outside where the real China or the rest of China happens, this is a very common phenomenon. These videos are just from the last few months. And clean comes in all aspects, right? Like air quality. So I did some research comparing the air quality of two major cities in the United States and two in China, Beijing and Shanghai, LA and New York. And here's what I found. So New York and LA, they're both dealing with air quality issues because of wildfire nearby, one from Canada and one from California. And so you see that the numbers are pretty high relatively to what they're normally the numbers are. They're in the 60s, maybe 70s, and still that's a lower AQI than what's happening in Shanghai and Beijing. And here you'd see that the numbers are much higher. They're in their 80s, 90s, to even 100s. So that just tells you, even at the best, the air quality is still worse than, well, I guess you would call it the dirtiest cities in America. How about food? Well, we know that it's not a strong suit when it comes to the hygiene issues in China, but of course, here's a video of people using AC water to soak rice noodles and also mushrooms. Here's a bus video in China. People throw trash on the floor. And here's an image of a regular train in China. Now, these aren't the high-speed rail that you'll see featured in every single one of those pro-China videos, but these are regular trains. They're called green trains or green leather trains. I'm going to end this Chinese high-speed rail debate once and for all, okay? It's very simple, actually. So they're much older, much dirtier, run down, whatever the case may be, but they're actually utilized by many people in China still. The reason is the cost. So in some of the lines, for example, between major cities, they've reduced the number of these regular train schedules or pushed them to like the early mornings and late nights. But here you see, I've screenshotted this for you. We take the Beijing to Shanghai line, for example. It's a typical line between two major cities. The cost of a regular seat on a high-speed rail is about 500 to 600 Rand per trip. So round trip, double that, right? Also, depending on when you book it, depending on what city you actually book it between, prices vary, of course. So a round trip from Beijing to Shanghai will cost you about 1,100 to 1,200 Rand. That's a lot of money for somebody making 3,000 Rand a month. That's like a third of their monthly salary. So, by the way, the Beijing-Shanghai line is long used as sort of the standard, well, not really a standard, but in terms of profitability, they're the most profitable line in the Chinese high-speed system. And even then, in 2022, they suffered a tremendous loss of income just simply because of pandemic, traveling, or the lack of traveling. But this is a very, very standard and very, I could say, representative line, okay? Another unique thing about this line is that it's office workers, it's business people who travel between the two, like the financial center and the political center of China. So it's like you're traveling between here to Washington, for example. If you were in that business class, that's gonna bring you up to about 2,000 to maybe 2,500 yuan per ticket, so about 5,000 per trip, right? So that's a lot of money for a business class, which obviously in some of the trains look quite luxurious, kind of like first class seats on a plane. The rest of the country, spending 300 to 400 Rand for a round trip train ticket, it's a lot of money for somebody like a migrant worker who might be wanting to bring as much money home as possible. They're not going to spend 1,000 or 2,000 on a ticket. And the issue with that is the regular train tickets, sometimes during the peak seasons like Chinese New Year, they can't even find a ticket. It's all sold out, right? So people have to stand or people have to just basically squeeze onto the train. And even then, they still won't take 1,000 yuan a ticket to go home. This claim that China, it seems like, or at least they make it to be, that all of China seems to be riding this cutting-edge high-speed train system all the time is simply not true. Not a regular occasion for, as the CCP shells claim it to be. But let's say you spend 3,000 yuan for a round-trip ticket between Beijing to Shanghai. Let's convert that to the USD. It's about 400 US dollars. That's a very affordable plane ticket for you to take from New York to LA, or from maybe New York to, I don't know, San Diego or somewhere, across the country. That's like 2,800 miles, or about 4,500 kilometers-ish. That's much longer than the Beijing to Shanghai distance, but also that's affordable on a $3,000 salary. You can pay for a $400 plane ticket because the US dollar purchasing power is much better than the yuan, and also just simply because you can get more with 3,000 USD than 3,000 yuan. So the claim that China is affordable, well, not to everybody, to some, to many, but not all of them. Now, this last one is hilarious to me because they always say that, oh yeah, the Chinese government is super responsible. They solve the issues for the people. I addressed some of this in my second last video, but I just took some random searches online, and here's what I found. July 25th to 26th. This is in a village in Hebei province. They were reporting issues, but they faced evasion and insults instead. The problem remained unresolved, and instead officials conducted late-night household checks, demanding that the videos they posted online be deleted. So the villagers stated that instead of solving the issues, they were first silent. Where's the Labor Department when you need it? Because the issue of unpaid wages in America would cause some national headlines, even if it's just one company. Yet in China, daily, I'm telling you, literally daily, videos are being posted about how they haven't been paid and they're demanding wages for months. And these are just 4 videos I found from all the same day, different places in July. Different occupations all demanding that their wages be paid. And this can happen with white-collar jobs in China too. So I can list so many of these examples, but you get the point. The idea that you're trying to define a whole using just one is simply what they're trying to do with saying that, oh yeah, China's so advanced, China's so great, etc. To claim as such, it's doing a disservice to the actual huge number of people in China who don't live like that are being propagandized to say that, oh yeah, they do, just to fulfill some wishes to appeal to the Western eyes. Thank you so much for watching this episode. Hope you enjoy the content. Let me know your thoughts in the comment. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and like this video as well to help us spread it to more people on YouTube. All right, until next time, bye-bye.